Shout out to calling a restaurant the morning of New Year's Eve to see if you can get a reservation and actually getting laughed at. Shout out to every sitcom you've ever seen suddenly becoming infinitely more plausible. Shout out to New Year's Day, the closest this country has ever come to an officially sanctioned day off due to hangover. Shout out to people who give their kids really old school names. There's no reason any name should have to die with some spinster in Salem in 1693. Shout out to the conversations you have on public transportation. No matter what the subject, it's always insane. The other day on the bus, one lady told me I have the face to work with the mentally ill, and another lady asked me if I thought a bullet through flesh would burn. There's a reason Joe Biden rides Amtrak. You can't get that shit anywhere else. Shout out to the German scientists who claim to have created temperatures lower than absolute zero. Shout out to the people in New Hampshire who didn't need a scientist to tell them what was colder than cold this week. Shout out to Andre 3000. Shout out to the Quran written in Saddam Hussein's blood. Just shout out to the fact that it exists. Shout out to ancient peoples. 2 archaeologists recently discovered a 4,000-year-old skeleton of a man they say was paralyzed for at least his last decade of life, meaning his fellow hunter-gatherers actually took care of him. Shout out to boundless human compassion spanning centuries. Shout out to little plastic coffee stirrers. I want to meet the Jack Donaghy-like innovator who was bold enough to say, you know, we don't really need the spoon part if we're just mixing 2 liquids real quick. Shout out to the McRib. Every year I start to forget what an old sponge from a morgue might taste like, and then the McRib comes back, and I remember. Shout out to Netflix, rolling out good new shit on instant like every passing day this week. Shout out to knowing your bored collegiate audience's calendar all too well. Shout out to the first openly gay senator being sworn in this week. Shout out to the 112th Congress being sworn out and at this week. Shout out to the fiscal cliff. Shout out to the debt ceiling. Shout out to the loan shelf. Shout out to the fiduciary fjord. Shout out to the compound interest breakfast nook.